Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the DVC Clubhouse show. I am Amy, and joined with me, as always, is Jeff.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
And today we have Jennie joining us. So, Jennie, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and talk to us about DVC. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you here. So, before we get into talking about Disney, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a single mom of 5 grown children, and I live in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State, and that's pretty much. I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I was born here. Um,
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about you and your and the details of your life as we get into your Disney story. So tell us about your, when did you start going to Disney parks?
um, My my dad started this. He was the original Diz nerd or Diz junkie, whatever you want to call it. Um, in about 1972, 73 was our first trip to Disneyland, and it was his first trip, and it was his life's goal. He loved Disney from the time he was very young, and he took us all to Disneyland. And my brother was only about 1.5 or 2 at the time, and he still has vivid memories of it. And it just lit something in my dad, and then all of us. And my family would regularly go to Disneyland. As often as we could afford to go. You know, my parents were raising 4 kids and, you know, scrimping and saving for those trips, but we made it. And then as we grew up, um my parents ended up divorced, and I remember just after my dad and my mom divorced, and it was very friendly, very amicable. It was fine. My dad took us all to Disneyland, and for the first time, we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. And that was such a huge thing. And it was so impactful for me when I was young. It was something that as I grew older and I had my own kids, I wanted to do something like that for them someday. Um, in about 2007, I took my youngest for the first time, and that was when I first heard about DVC, because they were sending me the materials to do the trip and package and everything, and I think there was a DVD included in it,
Sounds about right.
and back in the day. And at the time it sounded really neat, but again, I'm a mom raising young children, and I didn't know it was mainly focused in Walt Disney World, and that was something I'd never been to Walt Disney World. So I didn't think that it was really for me. But over the years, more and more and more, I'm hearing about it. I'm hearing about it. And I think it was 2011, I ended up divorced, and 2013 was my first trip back to Disneyland after divorce. And I took my son to stay at Disneyland Hotel, my youngest, because it was just me and him in the house by then. And we went, and it was huge. I loved it. It was a big deal for me, and my son loved it. And my dad actually joined us on that trip, and it was a great time. Um, and just before that, I was planning that trip, and DVC started coming into the picture again during the planning. And I think that time they were really starting to push Grand Floridian right in that time frame area. And and I was like, okay, so what's this about? And I got a hold of a um representative, and I started talking to him, and it was sounding really good and it made sense. And at the time, I think Californian points were like super cheap. And I'm thinking, because Disneyland has always been my home, I could finally have DVC at Disneyland. This is a great idea. And I go and was telling I went to my dad's house and I'm telling my dad about this. And my brother was there. And I'm like, Dad, I think this is really good because you pay it off and then you still have time on the contract. And yeah, there's dues that you have to pay each year, but they're timeshare dues just like anything else. And my brother at the time was like, no, Jen, you're better off just saving your money and paying out of pocket. Just don't, no, timeshares are a scam, and he's right in one way. So he completely talked me out of it. And at the time, I probably could not have sustained the payment of even the dues because I'm a brand new, fresh out of a you know relationship, single mom trying to care for my son. And so he's probably right in that sense, but at the same time, I think I found like the points charts and the cost per points a little while ago from that because I saved all that stuff. And I was like, I could have Grand Californian for this much. Jerk. But um so I didn't think anything of it. Fast forward, um we're 2019. We're gearing up to go to Disneyland again in September. And this was like a big family trip. So my brother's going, my sister's going, I'm going, kids are going, dad's going, everything. Um, and as we're gearing up for it, we found out dad had cancer. And he went on a course of chemo, and everything looked really good, and the doctor cleared him to go to Disneyland. So here we are in September 2019, having a blast in Disneyland, good times. And when we came home from that trip, dad started having trouble again. And so we found out that as time went on, that it wasn't going to be treatable. With his He had diabetes and it wasn't working. Chemo was working against the diabetes and diabetes was working against the chemo. And it wasn't going to be successful. So we knew that. And we spent as much time as possible caring for dad over 2 years, um, to make sure that his time was well spent and ours too. And it was good. It was, and then he had taken the time to really work with us as his children and his beneficiaries to make known what he wanted to happen. And we knew what he wanted to happen, and that we were going to come into some funds after he passed. And so when he passed, we did our stuff that we were going to do, and we came into these funds, and we kind of I had a plan that I was going to pay off some debt and invest in some other stuff, and then I was going to have a set amount left over. And I thought after what we had all been through, I really wanted to take my kids on a trip, but I couldn't go back to Disneyland. It was going to be too emotional. And I didn't want to go to a park. I wanted some place to go and relax, but still honor dad. So I started looking at Aulani because we'd never been. It's still Disney, which connects us to dad, and it would be relaxing. We wouldn't have to be hitting schedules or rides or anything like that. And I kind of priced out a week at Aulani for me and the kids, and I thought, okay, well, that's that's a big chunk of money, but this would be a once in a lifetime trip. And then I was like, and I still have this much left over. What am I going to do with that? And I went, well, how much would DVC cost me? And I start plugging in the numbers and kind of poking around at that. And I thought, I might do this time. This has been a life goal of mine to do DVC. So I was talking to my sister-in-law, my little dog, sorry. I was talking to my sister-in-law one day. We were gathered at dad's place, cleaning things and going through things. And I was telling her, I'm I'm kind of thinking, don't tell Andy, my brother. Don't tell him because he tore me apart a few years ago. Don't tell him I'm thinking about buying DVC so I can go on trips. And that's kind of part of my retirement thing. And she goes, Andy!
Oh
Like,
no.
no, don't do that. And my brother comes over and Laura goes, tell him, tell him, tell him. And I was like, I'm thinking about buying DVC. And he goes, oh, how many points you looking at? And I went, you little turd, you're thinking about it too? Oh my, told me not 2 years ago. So he turned me on to doing some research online, YouTube, certain channels, places to get really good information, stuff about resale too. And which I had never heard of before was resale marketing. And I had no clue about that. And I did my research, he did his research, and we talked back and forth. And then my sister, who lives overseas, had come home for dad's funeral. And we had a private family gathering afterwards, just the kids and grandkids. And she was leaving and she turned around as she was walking out the door and she goes, Jen, I'm thinking with some of the money dad left me of buying into DVC. And I'm like, Auntie? She was like, so out of my dad's 4 kids, 3 of us bought into DVC as a way to pass on dad's and his legacy, his happy spot that became our happy spot that we've passed on to our kids. And oh my goodness, it's so funny. So we ended up all purchasing. um I My brother and sister both went with Riv, and I went differently because I kind of price things out, and I did a lot of research and I paid attention and ended up buying at Animal Kingdom Direct because the price point was low enough on the direct that I saved enough money to purchase a resale contract also. And I knew I wanted a monorail resort because we're all getting older and I wanted something that had really good transportation, put us near the Magic Kingdom and stuff like that. So I put in an offer on BLT and did, but I didn't want to tell my brother about it because BLT is his favorite and I didn't want to like jinx it.
And you didn't want him to
And
outbid you.
right, no lie. And
Sibling rivalry.
so here's the funny thing. I got the resale on BLT, and I had done the research on that because I knew both Animal Kingdom and BLT were coming due for a renovation and a full, and that After that, their price point would probably go up because, they're going to be more in demand after those renovations. And so I was really happy with what I got, and I ended up with 375 points total between the two.
Wow.
And the first thing we did was, as a family, we all booked rooms at Aulani and went to Aulani together, and that was a blast.
That's amazing. Well, I just want to say first of all, I'm so sorry about your loss. I was very close to my dad, and I have a lot of really wonderful memories with my own father at Disney World, and so I can totally I can totally relate to your this like connecting and this like feeling of connection and memory. So such a beautiful way to honor your father and kind of this like thing that he brought into your lives that you all shared together and that now you will continue to be able to share together as a family. That's just so special. And even the sibling who didn't buy in, I mean, I'm sure they'll benefit from it.
Oh yeah, she does.
um but I have a question. So you all bought your points. So do you all live on the West Coast?
Nope.
Okay.
3 of us still live on the West Coast, and one of us, my sister, lives overseas.
Okay. So at the time, so but you all bought your points at a Disney World resort.
Correct.
And so had you ever visited Disney World
No.
before? So
N-
you were a Disneyland kid and
Yep.
a Disneyland adult, and then when you decided to make this plunge into buying your points, you bought them at Disney World
Right.
and then
And
took your first trip to Alani.
yes, we took our first trip to Aulani and just us. And then we did a big, huge, we took my mom, everybody to Disney World in December of 2022. The first week of December.
Just a couple months ago, like 5 months ago.
So here's the funny thing, this worked out because my brother wanted 3-bedroom grand villas because he's got a bigger group. And I have more points than he does because I bought some resale, and I ended up booking him on my points a 3-bedroom grand villa at Jumbo, and we split stay and at BLT, and I got to stay at Riviera. So
You did a big swap.
so this was this thing that we kind of figured out that we could swap points a little here and there, or at least rooms, and stuff like that. So my brother and I were actually, the group that we had in December was a really big group, and there were about 5 of us who really organized everything, park reservations, dining, Genie Plusing it all. And so we kind of got to be tour guides for this big group of everybody else. And I went, no, because that's my vacation now. I was a tour guide in a place I've never been before, but I did the research on, right? And so I said, no, I'm not doing that. I want my vacation. So I took my points and I booked some nights in May. And we're going back. The 5 of us who really put everything together are going in May, just as a small group, really independent. We'll move pretty much on our own throughout the parks. And I happened, because it's a lower desired time of year, I happened to get us rooms at Grand Floridian, and then I'll go to BLT and be my first time staying at BLT. And then my brother's going to have a room at Poly for part of the time. So it's like, you know, it's a monorail line dream.
Sounds like it.
That's amazing though. I mean, and again, just so nice that you like all of these things that, were on your bucket list, like to have be on a monorail resort. to be able to be a DVC member, and to honor your dad, just like
Yeah.
such a great story. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure it's very emotional too.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a good story, and it's and to me, I think this is what was meant to happen for us.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because your brother being a naysayer and then coming around. I think you're right. I think this is what the way that it was meant to be, and you were all able to enjoy it together at the same
Yep.
time as a way to celebrate your dad. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that you are a Disney Vacation Club member, what is on your DVC bucket list?
Oh, so many things. um, I just am getting started. We bought in July of 21. And so I am just getting my feet wet and getting things going. I think I want to do um I want to I I I'm kind of torn on this. Part of me wants to do some trips that are dedicated to one park at a time, like go down for a long weekend and only go to Animal Kingdom or only go to Epcot and really get immersed in those parks and um what they are and how they're put together. And then part of me just wants to like do all I've recently found all of those different tours that you can do, like the Wild Africa Trek and up close with rhinos and all that other stuff. And I'm like, I need to do every one of those. It's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, as somebody who's been a DVC member for 21 years now, the flexibility of being able to kind of like design these trips that you would never do before. So I have done what you're talking about. I did an Animal Kingdom only trip where I stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I went to Animal Kingdom, spent an entire day there from rope drop to close. The next day went back and did the Wild Africa Trek. Um, and that is not something I ever would have done if I had, if not for DVC. And there are trips that I have gone and stayed at Beach Club and only went so far as Epcot World Showcase, basically, and just did, food and wine, and went every day because I go on these solo trips. So you can only eat so much when you're by yourself. And so just being able to go into Epcot every day and walking around. And again, I would never have before DVC been like, I'm going to go to Disney World, but only go to Animal Kingdom. People would think that I was nuts, because people kind of see Animal Kingdom as like this kind of add-on that you just do, but it opens up these possibilities. And I just want to say, you said you're just getting your feet wet with DVC, but I mean, you've been to Aulani, you've stayed at Riviera, you've been into Grand Villas, right? And now you're going to be have stayed after your May trip. You will have stayed at all of the monorail resorts, so you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're definitely well on your way.
Yeah, I'm trying to get all of the resorts ticked off as soon as possible. So
So, of the resorts that you've been, so you haven't, you really haven't stayed at many, but you've been in some. Like, what would you say is your favorite resort right now?
um the ones I've been in, so in December I ended up doing a split stay where it was supposed to start at Grand Floridian and then a couple of nights at Animal Kingdom and then to Riviera for the last 4 nights. And there was a snafu, which will go on that portion of the call about
The highlight reel?
the highlight low light. Um, so I do want to say that the 2 nights that I had at Kidani just called to me. They just called to me, and I don't feel like I spent enough time there. That's one place that I'm like, I really want to go back to that resort and really spend some time there. Not just the park but the resort itself. Spend time at that resort. It is so magnificent.
It really is. And I did the Starlight Savannah there, the Starlight Safari at Kidani. And on that same trip, one of the days I just stayed at the resort, walked around, looked at all of the artwork. Um, I ate at all of the restaurants on property there at that resort, and it's just it is that can be a vacation on its own. And it's got the Kidani pool. I really enjoy it. It's got a great water slide and a great splash area for kids. I prefer the Kidani pool area to the Jumbo House pool area. So yeah, so I'm with you. I think that Kidani. I mean, I just think Animal Kingdom Lodge it's a very special, unique place that you can spend a lot of time there and see a lot and have a full day of just enjoying that resort, more than a full day of enjoying that resort and everything it has to offer. So let's now you have me intrigued about the memory that would not make it onto your highlight reel. So let's just talk about that. We normally save that for the very end, but you mentioned it, so why don't we talk about that?
I was originally scheduled to stay at VGF for one night, and I thought I hit the jackpot. I got a 2-bedroom at Grand Floridian at Christmas time for me and my kids. I was so excited. The day before I'm flying out, I get a phone call from the manager at Grand Floridian and said that there's a problem with the room. They can't accommodate me. They're going to move me somewhere else. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to get everything together, and I'm running out the door for an appointment because, and he said, we're going to move you to Boulder Ridge. And I was, not thinking. And I was like, okay, and then he really just kind of said, okay, thanks. Have a great day. And I was like, wait a second. Do I get a new reservation number? Is there a points exchange? Because that's a different amount of points. And I couldn't get a hold of him again. I got nothing. All of a sudden now I'm going to be late to my nail appointment because I've got to make 400 phone calls. I had to change a dining reservation. I had to change my transportation from the airport because I'm not staying at Grand Floridian when I get off the plane. I had to change all this stuff, not only for me, but for everybody in my room. And when we finally get to Disney World and I get to Boulder Ridge, I talked to the lady at the front and I said, nobody ever said anything about my points because this is a difference in points. I don't think I'm getting a comparable room, and I'm not getting any kind of anything. And the nice woman she was so sweet at Boulder Ridge got us a room as soon as possible. It was not one of the new refurbished rooms. She made the call and made sure that my points came back plus a few more. And we went down to dinner. And when we came back up to our room, there was this bag full of goodies and wonderful things. And and I wasn't like mean or over the top. I was just like, I don't know what happened here. And I've been moved and nobody's giving me information. I'm frustrated and I'm in a place I've never known before. And that low light led to me actually really falling in love with Boulder Ridge. Even before.
Which, by the way, I mean, if you're going to be moved from a resort at Christmas time, I think Wilderness Lodge is like probably tied with Grand Floridian in terms of how desired it is at that time of year.
It was so beautiful there. It was so peaceful. It was wonderful. The staff were amazing. I loved. Okay, I can't swim, people. I can't swim. I've never learned to swim. But I loved getting on a boat and going across the lake to Magic Kingdom. There is something so peaceful about that and so wonderful. And I had the best time my one night at Boulder Ridge because the people made it, the atmosphere made it, and I just chose to go, okay, I've said my piece. Now let's get on with the vacation. And we did. And it was just utterly fantastic.
Well, and that's the best way to handle it because you don't want to ruin your vacation. So I mean,
Mhm.
and it sounds like for you, it did. It started out as kind of a low light, but it ended up being something that was really
Yeah.
special for you. So I'm very
Yeah.
glad that it worked out. And I agree with you about that resort. I mean, there is just something about, I love Bay Lake. I mean, I love Bay Lake from Wilderness Lodge because you are like Geyser Point is right there. You're overlooking, there's this like fog over the lake in the morning that rises, and it's so gorgeous, and the sun rises over the lake, and it is just quiet and peaceful. And even though I know that the insect sounds are, it's actually ideal because the insect sounds are really peaceful, but they're it's a track, so you know that there's not like all of those insects, which is great. I'm like, I like the sound of bugs, I just don't like the reality of them, so let's just patch that sound in so I can hear it but not have to, like, not have to see them.
West, and I know that those bugs don't make those noises in December. So it's not.
Well, that's true, I didn't even think about that. You were staying in a resort that
Mhm.
was basically designed in the style of the area where you live.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel like they did a good job?
Um, yeah, it's a beautiful resort. I love the lobby. And here's my conundrum. If they would offer Boulder Ridge at 2057 expiration, I would totally be going, I'm saving pennies every day. I'm saving pennies every day. I really love that location, that resort, everything about it. Boulder Ridge is really special. Um, if I come into lottery kind of money, I'd buy there anyway. Don't
Yeah.
extend because it was just that special. And for 19 years, those would be my points.
Yeah.
For
Well, I bought, so Beach Club is my home resort, which expires in 2042, and I love Wilderness Lodge so
yeah,
much, and I love Boulder Ridge, but and I wanted to add there because I really want to be able to, I decided I really wanted to be able to stay at Wilderness Lodge in December for Christmas time, and you really can't unless you own there.
right,
But I couldn't bring myself to buy another 2042. So I bought a small contract at Copper Creek because it has a longer expiration date. I really love Boulder Ridge. There's something, I know that it's at the same resort, and for some people, staying in the main building is more
yeah,
appealing. But for me, being over in Boulder Ridge, it is so peaceful. I love that pool over there. It's a closer walk to Geyser Point. I just love it. But
yeah.
I settled for Copper Creek because of the longer expiration date.
Yeah, and I've thought about that too. And I'm kind of like, I'm so upset because, Animal Kingdom, you get Jumbo and Kidani, and you can book either place at 11 months. I love that little perk. Why can't I do that if I buy at Wilderness Lodge? I
Yeah.
wish I could do that. I understand why they don't, but I wish that they could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice. I wish that there was that ability too, but alas, I need to book at Copper Creek at 11 months instead. So, Is there anything that you want to share with our viewers about your experience about DVC? Any wisdom that you want to impart on them before we wrap it up?
Yeah, there was something that I wanted to say because everybody talks about use year, and everybody talks about how many points you might need, this, that. But you really need to look at when you're vacationing and where you want to, it's more than where you want to stay, where you want to stay at what time. Because if you're buying 150 points and thinking you're getting a grand villa at Christmas at Grand Floridian on 150 points, it's going to be really, really disappointing for you. So if you're a teacher or a parent of smaller kids who are going to be only vacationing during those school break times, be very cognizant of the point cost that you're going to pay at those times, because that can be a hard, disappointing thing to learn. For me, I'm fortunate enough, my kids are raised, they're out of the house. I have these points. I can go any time of the year. I have a great job. I get paid vacation. I love being paid to go to Disney World. That's my favorite thing in the world. Um, I kind of have that really good catbird seat where my points are just for me to play whenever I want, and I can bring my kids with me or my family or my if I choose to. But if you're a family of 4 and you can only go at spring break, you're going to want to look at how many points it really costs to go at spring break.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I mean, I think that it's great when people find the resources to do the research so that they understand that just because a resort might be 12 points a night in January doesn't mean when you want to travel that that you're going to pay that little. So it's a good point. And it really, I think it just drives the message home to really do your research and really be open to having these, like, the types of conversations with members, which is why I think it's nice to have these online communities, because it gives people the opportunity to talk to the, like, people, like the boots on the ground, like us, people who
Yeah.
have been through it and use them, versus just speaking to somebody who's trying to sell you a product.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. You really want to find out from people what their bad experiences were, because those are your teachers. Those are the moments that teach you what you can and can't do, and where you need to correct to make things right for you.
Yeah.
Well, and to piggyback onto that, it's Disney. If you're going to make a mistake in your travel planning, I don't think there's any other place in the world that has as good of a safety net for those mistakes. They're usually pretty good about remedying situations or helping fix a problem, or moving people around. Like if you'd have had that same experience and you were flying to Hawaii and the Marriott said, "Oh, we don't have your room," now what? You scramble to find something else, where Disney at least is going to have your back, I think. So I think that's a good point, that if you have to make a mistake traveling, Disney's a good place to make it, and I've made plenty.
Gotta say, my favorite thing that I got out of that, besides my new love for Boulder Ridge, was in that bag that they gave me. Was one of the statues of the totem pole, and it had Humphrey Bear on the bottom and all the
Oh,
characters.
that's so cool.
I love that thing. Humphrey Bear is my favorite bear, right after Winnie the Pooh. I'm a bear person and I that is like my favorite souvenir I brought home. I'm like, I got Humphrey Bear.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice because, I mean, 9 out of 10 times Disney will make good on
Oh yeah,
their mistake.
yeah, and they certainly did. And I think her name was Evelyn, the young lady at the front counter at at Boulder Ridge, and she was just so sweet, and she really just took care of us.
Yeah. That's the Disney touch.
Yep.
So Jeff, do you have anything you want to add or any questions?
No, I don't think so. I just appreciate you sharing your story. It was a very special story. I think that's going to hit a lot of people in the feels. So we appreciate you taking the time and opening up.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, yes, to echo that sentiment. Thank you for opening up and sharing that with us, and for taking time from your weekend to spend with us to talk about a topic that we all love to talk about, Disney and DVC. So with that, I wanted to also thank all of our viewers for your support, for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, comment below, and until next time, we'll DVC you real soon. Bye, everyone.